Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back with my top 30 favorite killer doll films.
All you have is your fire, and the place you need to reach. Don't you ever tame your demon, but always keep 'em on a leash.
Before I get into the list, there are a few things I need to say about this one. First of all, these aren't all technically killer doll films. There are some killer toys in here, and just some creepy dolls in general, that don't necessarily kill anybody. Also, the dolls and toys in these films won't always be the primary focus of the movie, but they're significant to the plot in some way. I did not include any films with mannequins or wax figures, like Tourist Trap, Night Ripper, House of Wax, or Waxwork. I will also not be including any remakes, sequels, or TV episodes, but there are a few exceptions, and I'll explain when I get to them. Now, I'm sure I did forget to include some films. It always happens. And I can tell you right from the start, you won't see the Goosebumps movie on this list. It's not because I didn't want to include it, but it's because my son left the Blu-ray at his grandmother's house. Like all my other lists, this is just my opinion, and I'm sure there will be a few surprises. Remember, there are 30 films to show, guys, so I'm going to try to get through this list pretty quickly. And so, here they are, my top 30 favorite, for lack of a better phrase, killer doll films. Coming in at number 30 is Marinier, a doll horror movie. I included it for that phrase alone. But as you can see, it also has awesome cover art, which, I'm sorry to say, is probably the best thing about this film. Hence why it's dead last. At number 29 is Black Devil Doll. This movie is equally fun and ridiculously stupid. But hey, it's number 29. What do you expect? Coming in at number 28 is Dead Silence. This might be the first surprise on this list because I know there are a lot of fans of this film. In fact, my wife loves it. For some reason, this was never one of my favorites, and there's something about it that I just don't enjoy. I want to, I really do. It's one of those movies that I watch again and again, hoping that I'm going to like it more, but it's just sort of okay for me. So here it is at number 28. Coming in at number 27 is Poltergeist. Maybe another surprise. I don't know. I'm including it here obviously because of the famous clown scene. Now, I'm not a huge Poltergeist fan, as I've mentioned in the past. I actually prefer the sequels, but everybody knows that clown doll scene, and it's a classic whether I enjoy it or not. Don't get me wrong, I like the film. I'm just not a huge fan, which is why it's only number 27. At number 26 is Private Parts. And no, this is not the Howard Stern movie. This is a truly bizarre and pretty obscure film, but you know what? I actually really enjoy it. This one has a blow-up doll that's very important to the plot, hence why it's included in this list. Next up at number 25 is the first horror anthology to make the list. It's Tales from the Hood. If you've seen this movie, then you know to which segment I'm referring. At number 24 is Curtains. It's one of those films where the doll doesn't actually kill anybody, but it's still pretty important. Important enough, in fact, that it's on the cover. Coming in at number 23 is May. Again, no killer doll in this one, but can anyone really say that Susie the doll isn't creepy? Come on. Next up at number 22 is Demonic Toys. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's entertaining. Yes, it's exactly what you'd expect from Full Moon. And speaking of Full Moon, at number 21 is Blood Dolls. This one is a bit more bizarre than Demonic Toys, and I've actually always enjoyed it more. Hence why it's just a notch higher on this list. Coming in at number 20 is one of those exceptions that I mentioned earlier. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5, The Toy Maker. I said that I wasn't going to be including sequels, but I made an exception for this one because the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies don't follow the same storyline, and they're all pretty much standalone films. And part 5 is literally about a toy maker who makes killer toys. From one Christmas movie to another with number 19, Krampus. Once again, this one features killer toys. You can actually see a pretty demonic teddy bear right there. So, very cool, memorable scene, and I had to include it on this list. At number 18 is Saw. What would a killer doll list be without Billy on his tricycle? No, he doesn't actually kill anyone, but he's the face of the franchise. Next up, at number 17, is Magic. This movie is probably the cause for so many of those who fear ventriloquist dummies. But as scary as Magic is, my number 16 pick, Dead of Night, is even more frightening. It's another horror anthology film, and this one features a maniacal ventriloquist dummy. On to number 15 now with yet another horror anthology. This time it's Trilogy of Terror. Of course, I am referring to the third and most famous story, Amelia, featuring the Zuni Hunter doll, as shown there on the cover. Coming in at number 14 is The Conjuring. I couldn't leave Annabelle off this list, and what's cool about this film is that the real-life Conjuring house is not far from where I live. I've been there. At number 13 is a movie that I've always found to be highly underrated, Pinocchio's Revenge. It does not get talked about enough, and I've always enjoyed it, probably more than most, considering the lack of attention it receives. Coming in at number 12 is Dolly Dearest. I used to love this movie growing up, and to be honest, I don't know why. It's probably because the doll is extremely creepy, but other than that, I just don't like it as much as I used to. Even still, for nostalgia's sake, is number 12 in my top 30. My number 11 pick features another creepy clown, Ghost House. This is another movie I loved growing up, but unlike Dolly Dearest, I still love it to this day. If you haven't seen Ghost House, I highly recommend this one. We're into the top 10 now, and starting it off with The Pit. I know it's cheesy and even cringeworthy in some scenes, but it's a blast. And what's even creepier than that evil teddy bear is that creepy kid. Coming in at number 9 is The Fear. I received this movie yesterday from my buddy Ted at the horror section, watched it last night, and here it is, already in my top 10. This is another one of those exceptions that I mentioned earlier in this video because technically, this guy right here is a wooden mannequin. But I really enjoyed this and I wanted to include it in the list, so here it is. My number 8 pick features another wooden mannequin or statue or doll, whatever you want to call it, Old Chief Woodenhead in Creepshow 2. You guys know how much I love this horror anthology, and while Old Chief Woodenhead is probably my least favorite of the 3 segments, I still love it. Coming in at number 7 is The Witching Season. Now this one is really important, because initially I wasn't going to include any anthology films on this list. But then I thought of this one, and I had to, because I love it. In fact, I love it so much, it's the highest ranked anthology on this list. And if I wasn't given preference to standalone killer doll films, it would probably be ranked even higher. Probably top 5, even top 3. That's how awesome it is. To see a really great evil toy story, check out the segment titled Princess. My number 6 pick is Pin, a Plastic Nightmare. This one features a very creepy anatomical dummy. If you haven't seen this movie, it's another one I highly recommend. We've made it to the top 5, and I might annoy some people with my number 5 pick, but it's my list. I said there would be some surprises, and this will probably be the biggest of them all. Pinocchio. Now, keep in mind, nowhere in this video did I state you would only be seeing horror films. But let's be honest, this is a genuinely scary movie. It's dark. Many older Disney films are, especially those actually directed by Walt Disney, but Pinocchio is on a whole different level. Think about it. First, he's kidnapped, thrown in a cage, forced to work. Then he's sent to an island, forced to smoke, and turn into a donkey. If this didn't scare you as a kid, then you're probably a horror fan now. And now, back to the horror with my number 4 pick, Puppet Master. It's quite possibly Full Moon's greatest franchise, and definitely their most popular. Comment below and let me know which puppet is your favorite. Mine's Torch, but he doesn't show up until the sequel. My number 3 pick is the last of the exceptions. I said I would not be including any TV episodes on this list, but I am including one. It's from the 5th season of The Twilight Zone, and I'm sure you know what episode it is. Living Doll. There she is, Talkie Tina, quite possibly the most famous living doll in TV history. This list would not have felt complete without her. My number 2 pick is probably what the casual viewer would assume would be my number 1. But if you watch my channel for a long time, then you already know my number 1. So, number 2 is Child's Play. Yeah, it's a classic. We all know Chucky, we all love Chucky, but it's not my favorite. Because my number 1 favorite killer doll film is Dolls. Not only is it my favorite killer doll film, but it is also one of my all-time favorite horror movies. I'm showing a sealed VHS copy as a symbol of how much I actually love this film. I had another VHS copy growing up. I watched so much that it actually ruined the tape. And while I still have that one as a keepsake, I had to get a brand new sealed copy for my collection. Of course, I also have multiple editions on DVD and the Scream Factory Blu-ray. I'll say it again. I love this movie. Well, there they are, guys, my top 30 favorite killer doll films. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. And as always, if you feel up to it, post a video response. I'd love to see your list. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.